Alright, what's up guys? I decided to make this video as kind of like a little kind of like reference material thing for some things inside of Next.js that I kind of struggled with or had some questions about. So I'm going to kind of break these videos up into sections as to what may or may not be helpful to you or me sometime in the future. So anyway, starting things off, I just wanted to talk about file structure real quick. So, for our project specifically, and maybe other projects moving forward, I think a good file structure for creating a Next application is kind of what we have right here. So we have a src folder, which is just for all of our rendered content. So the components folder, the pages folder, and the styles folder. So I think that's kind of a good model for just the like front end rendered stuff. We're also gonna have a DB folder for MongoDB and Mongoose, but we'll get into that in a different video. One thing that I wanted to cover real quick is that with the pages folder, since Next.js exclusively only allows folders and files in this directory to be like directly corresponding to like a page component or like an endpoint, we actually can't store any other kind of content inside of these folders. So if, like, say for example, this would be an about page. If we had a component inside of our about page that was only used in that about page and nowhere else, typically, like before in our other version of Sapient, we would just put the component file inside of the about folder to kind of like keep all of our page components like in the same directory as our page. But we can't do that with Next because it'll just throw an error because we actually can't have any files in our folders that are not like an index or like a meta file name or something that has to do with like serving a specific purpose that Next has already predefined. So like the underscore document, for example. So to solve that problem, I just think an organized way of doing it is to go into the components folder and create a new folder and just call it page components. And then inside of the page components folder, just create a new folder for whatever page that you want to make page-specific components for. So if I wanted to make page-specific components for the about page, then I would just put an about folder in here. And now all of the components that I'm only going to be using in the about page, I'll just put inside of this about folder up here in page components. Optional, completely optional. I think it's a good way to do it. I can't think of a better way right now, but I'm open to opinions on that. So, like for example, if I just wanted to, maybe I have a header that's really specific to this about page, I would just say like header.tsx, and then inside of the about, I would just say import header. So that's what I would do. So moving on from that, another thing that I would probably recommend doing is if we are going to create a component that more represents a category of components rather than just a single component, I would just go ahead and create a folder for it in the components folder. Like for example, if you want to make a button component, then I wouldn't just, like maybe you want to make a close button, for example. I wouldn't recommend necessarily just kind of going in the components folder and then making a component called like close button .tsx. Oops. I think it would be better to go ahead and like create a new folder and just call this folder buttons, and then put like the close button .txs inside of the buttons directory, just so that it kind of organizes our components a bit more. If you have any components that don't fit into a category, then I would just put them directly into the components folder. So let's say, for example, you have a component called like, I don't know, maybe we're making like a custom search bar or something, and we're only going to be using like one kind of search bar throughout the whole project. So then maybe you could just throw that component inside of the components folder directly. Just kind of stuff like that, I think, is if we're consistent with that, then I think that would make things go a lot smoother. But again, that's just convention. I'm open to, like, obviously, all of us talking about what would be the best kind of file structure. This is also how they did it or how Caleb's team did it in the Paperless Fundraisers project, and that was one thing about their file structure that I really liked. So I do think it's, it holds some water.